Darian Durant is joining us. I was going to start NFL, but we could start CFL. Darian, it's starting today. NFL teams can start signing CFL players to like future contracts for next season and this and that. And I know up in Canada here, we always get excited when a guy gets a look, right? Because he's one of ours. Even though if he's not Canadian, he's one of ours. He's going to have a shot. What makes it so difficult to transition for the top athletes up here? And a lot of them just played college ball in the States a few years ago. But just what makes it so hard to break through? Is it that notoriety piece?
I think so. I think it's a little bit of the notoriety. And I think that, there's still some executives in the NFL that question the level of football that, guys play in the CFL. And even though there's a history of guys going from the CFL to the NFL and having a huge impact and, showing some longevity, it's still that question mark. And then you add on top of that, guys come up here, they play for a couple years. They may, be a little up there in age. And if you can get a guy coming straight out of college who's 22, 23 years old and cheaper, you're always going to go for that younger guy. So it's always an uphill climb, but, guys make it each and every year. And if you just keep at it, I think we can just continue to open eyes of executives down there, and they'll see that there's a pretty decent pipeline from the CFL down to the NFL.
I agree with you totally there, Darian. I was going to ask, though, is there a bit of a size factor as well, too? I don't mean so much on the offense. I think our offensive linemen are proportionate maybe in size. Maybe they are a little bit bigger in the NFL. I think our receivers are tall. There's a big, factor that they want to make sure that the receivers are tall in the NFL, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". We have tall receivers here as well. But it seems on the defense maybe that there is a bit of a difference in size, if you will, and correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe some of our linebackers, they would feel are more of the size. They're kind of caught in between. They're in between an NFL linebacker and, an NFL defensive back and a Canadian linebacker. There's you know what I mean? There's just some size things, maybe a little bit more on the defensive side, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I think you can kind of compare that to the quarterback position a little bit too. Most of your CFL quarterbacks are between 5'11" and 6'1", and, not your prototypical guy. And the same with the linebackers. They're maybe a strong safety type of NFL build are the CFL linebackers. And, when you're dealing with guys up front in the NFL, they're 320, 330 pounds. It makes a difference. And if you're a smaller linebacker, those type of things can be to your disadvantage. And, like you said, for the defensive side of the ball, mostly it's just a size thing. We compared it to, Boise State playing against Ohio State in the, in the bowl games in college football. And it's kind of like that when you look at some of the defensive players in the CFL trying to make that transition down south.
Do you guys, like, a lot of times we think, as I find anyway, up here in the CFL, and we remember, Doug Flutie and, Jeff Garcia went down, had like Cameron Wake. Like, can ESPN do like a 30 for 30 on that guy's career? Like, I don't remember. Like, did you guys cross paths, Darian?
Absolutely. He was a year or two younger than me. So my first year starting was his rookie year. So I was there for the entire Cam Wake CFL experience. And let me tell you, he's a freak of nature, but you don't find a lot of guys like that, right? Every once in a while, there are a couple guys who fly under the radar, may not get the type of look that they deserve. And look, Cam Wake went to Penn State. If you look at these Penn State athletes and defensive guys that they produce every year, if you're a late bloomer, you may not be able to play until your senior year, and you may be overlooked when it comes to the eyes of NFL scouts. And he's a prime example of a guy who just was overlooked and came to the CFL and showed what he's worth. Now, he's a specimen, man. He's not your typical, CFL defensive end and the size of those guys. He's a freak of nature. And he went down south and showed exactly the havoc that he could wreak when he gets going.
And then why am I drawing a blank here? He won a Super Bowl with my New England Patriots with defensive back from the Stamps.
Brandon Browner. Brandon Browner.
Browner.
Yes.
Who now, unfortunately,
and
is
there you go.
not a free man.
Yeah,
I don't.
he's incarcerated now. But but he's another freak of nature. He's a 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" DB who runs a 4.3 4.4. You don't see that a lot, and as you can see, he's kind of had a troubled past, and that may have went into the eyes of some of these NFL teams. They didn't want to, some red flags may have presented itself. And but Bill Belichick is always a guy who showed that he'd gamble on guys with checkered past, and he got a Super Bowl out of them. And kudos to Bill.
Another good one that was out there too that had a good career though recently too. Alex Singleton with the Stampeders, linebacker with the Stampeders, then went down to the NFL, played very, very well in the system for the Philadelphia Eagles, and now with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, he was a beast too, man. I was able to cross paths with Alex as well, and actually was able to sit down and talk with him a little bit at the CFL preseason thing when they bring in all the guys from different teams. He's a great guy, and he's another freak of nature, man. These guys, they're few and far between, but once you find them and they go down south, you can see why they're able to make noise.
Man, I just looked up Browner, and because I now remember the start. Oof. He's in San Quentin. He's doing real time.
Oh, wow.
He's doing real time, boys. No Super Bowl ring up in there. Yeah. Attempted murder charge. Yeah. Wow, that things went south there. No, it's it'll be interesting. Like when you were playing, and some of the guys on the offensive side of the ball, when you were playing Darian, and you look back and go, maybe if that guy would have just had someone that believed in him down there, who would have been the guy that you think would have transitioned well to the American game?
The guy that sticks out for me is a Darius Bowman. I mean, he's 6'4", about 215, can run, jump, do everything you can ask of an athlete, especially a receiver. But he just wasn't mature enough at the time, went through some things, and he was the number one receiver coming out of his class at Oklahoma State, put up the most yards in I think Oklahoma State history at that point in time over Des Bryant. And he's a guy that there's no doubt in my mind if he didn't have some of the off the field issues that he had, he would be a 10, 12-year NFL receiver. He built like Terrell Owens, just a smooth guy, and he's the guy for me.
What does the NFL do? Has it changed much more in how they look or how they scout the Canadian Football League? Did you get much as far as rumblings, or did you hear a lot about it's probably different than hockey where you can see the guys up in the stands. Oh, there's the scouts. They're all up there with the notepads and all. But is it changed in the last few years of how the NFL scouts the Canadian Football League?
Yeah, I think more so now the NFL is looking at guys who play stationary positions, like your corner, your field corner, or your boundary corner, or your receiver who doesn't have the waggle. I mean, they want guys who could easily transfer over to that NFL game. And that's not to take anything away from your slot receivers who get the running start. But in the NFL, they want you to come in and play right away. They don't have time for a developmental system. They need guys to step in and fill roles. So they're looking for guys who are playing the exact same type of position that they will play down south.
All right, let's shift it to the NFL game, and the bracket is set. The tournament, as they say. If you look at some of these matchups, Darian, okay, first off, my question, which is the most intriguing to you?
You know what? I want to say the Rams and the Vikings. And I just say this because the Rams, barely over 500 or right there at it. And here come the Vikings at 14-3. They have to go across the country. They're definitely going to be at a disadvantage. that's the most intriguing game for me because you bust your butt all year. You squeak out, not squeak, I'm sorry. You pull out 14 NFL wins and you have to go on the road for the playoffs. So, and they're going against a tough, LA Rams team. So that's the most intriguing matchup for me. I don't think it'll be the most interesting game, but I just think for the fact that the Vikings record is what it is, for them to have to go on the road, that doesn't sit well with me.
And that's one of the only teams that beat them. 30-20 back on October 24th. Yeah. And it's like, hey, you guys won 14 games. Your reward is you have to go play in Los Angeles. Like it's baffling that there's a wild card team with 14 wins, and then they have to go on the road. Like it shakes.
Yeah, the NFL definitely has to go and revisit this thing because if you're in a tough, you can't help that you're in a tough division. And if you're in a bad division, you win a bad division, you get rewarded with the whole playoff game. I just don't think that's fair at all.
Okay, what team does Darian Durant think can kind of come from way left field, come through the back door, and make that kind of Cinderella-ish run? If there was one team on that board, who would it be?
Excuse me. I would say the LA Chargers. I think that the way they're built, Jim Harbaugh, physical, run the ball, any type of weather, any type of environment football team, those are the teams that scare me. So, whenever you're well coached, and coaching gets so overlooked in the playoffs, situational football, when to take field goals, when to go for it. I think Jim Harbaugh is the best situational coach in the National Football League. And don't be surprised if the Rams make some noise. Justin Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I think that this is the perfect opportunity for him.
You're right about Harbaugh. You can't sleep on him, man. He wherever he goes, what program he goes to, if you want to go all the way back to when he was with Stanford, and of course he goes to the NFL, the 49ers. Harbaugh just gets everyone to buy in, and he makes everybody feel like this is a family, and they always improve.
But he seems super weird. Exactly. He seems like the weird uncle. Like his pants are riding up a little too high. His khakis. He's got his golf shirt tucked in, and he always wants to he's still just youthful, exuberance, whatever it's called. But anyways,
what I've learned throughout my history is that some of the best coaches ever are the weirdest guys. So, they don't have anything else going on. They're just all about football and just being weird. So they're some of the best.
Yeah, Jim checks a lot of those boxes. Like Barney said, his khakis sometimes are a little too high. The inseam is not long enough or something. What's going on there? He's got he's got his glasses. Like sometimes he looks like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys with those big prescription glasses. He's an interesting fella. Season comes to an end. I love this story. I wanted to ask you about this, Darian, and I'm sure you would have gotten the ball to this guy if he was one of your receivers, but I love this story. Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He goes into the final game of the season. He needs 5 receptions for 85 yards to get a $3 million bonus and be the man that ties Jerry Rice for an 11th straight 1,000-yard season. 85 yards, 5 receptions, $3 million bonus, breaks that 1,000-yard mark again, and he gets it on the final play of the regular season. Breaks 1,000 yards, $3 million bonus. I'm sure he's probably taking out Baker Mayfield for a steak dinner after that one.
Yeah, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I need 1%. I need about 10, at least 10, 10 to 20% of that. But no, this is just amazing for Mike. He's just shown that, when an organization sticks with you and is behind you, they're going to get the best out of you, and to, spend so much time with one organization. And, a lot of teams, they don't care about these incentives, or they'll be on the opposite end of that, and they'll make sure that he doesn't get these incentives. So, kudos to the Bucs and that organization for just being stand up and taking care of one of their guys, because whenever you can have a guy that's committed like Mike Evans, you want to reward him. So that's big for him.
Any of the coaching situations puzzle you or surprise you yet? For me, it's Gerard Mayo in New England, kind of a one and done deal. It's like, what did you expect him to do with a big bag of what?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, maybe he just wasn't their guy in the first place, or there's some behind the scenes things going on that they're not, letting out. But I don't understand that. And I'm just looking at the Chicago Bears job as well, and to me, it's like, what coach would want to go into that situation with the Lions and the Vikings and Green Bay and all three playoff teams, all double-digit win teams. You're just putting yourself behind the eight ball. Coaching already is an occupation that you're not guaranteed, longevity. So going into that job, it just seems as if you're going to fail because of the teams in that division.
Now, the NFL, of course, as we hear people say this, like you said, Darian, job security not there. NFL stands for not for long if you're not winning. But somehow Brian Daboll manages to stay in New York with the New York Giants. I don't get this one. Your thoughts on it, Darian? I thought this was going to be a slam dunk that they were going to move on from him, but he sounds like they're going to stick with him for another year. And right now the Giants are like, they're embarrassing. They got to be, they let Saquon Barkley go, and you all know what he did in Philadelphia. Yeah. And the decisions they're making now just seem asinine, really, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And lucky for, Daboll, he doesn't pick the players. So I think you have to look at the front office and blame them for, the situation of the Giants. I mean, Daboll has shown that he's a good coach. He led that team to the playoffs a few years ago. I don't think he's the problem. It's just a personnel thing. I mean, they have pieces. They drafted Neighbors. It looks like they're in the market for a quarterback. And I think if they can get a couple pieces, they'll be fine. But that front office, everyone from, aside from the CEO, everyone on down before the head coach needs to go, because, whatever that decision to let Saquon Barkley go and then to have it on Hard Knocks, it just makes it 10 times worse. And you can never recover from that. They have you, in your office saying that you think this guy is washed up or he doesn't deserve the money. I mean, there's no coming back from that. You can't expect to get another job when you make a fumble like that. So,
that's a good point.
He's a good coach, but, the front office has to go.
That Hard Knocks thing, I'm surprised more guys don't put their foot in their mouth like that. Okay, so what's the word from your UNC people now that Bill Belichick's kind of there? He's been a few weeks. Have you talked to him? You reached out and said, "Hey, Bill, I need an autograph for my buddy Barney in Regina"?
No, I texted our longtime media guy there, Kevin Best, and told him to say what's up to Coach for me. And we're all looking forward to going back in April for the spring game. I think you'll see, tons of alumni from all the years in the past, man. It'll be like a big reunion. So we're looking forward to it. We're picking up some good players. He's going to bring that NFL pedigree. And I think that especially the local guys, there's so many guys in the states of North Carolina and South Carolina who end up going all over the country to play for other schools. So I think that, the top guys, they'll stay right there in state and go with Coach Belichick, because especially on the defensive side of the ball, he puts them in the league. He's a known defensive coach, and I think it'll be good for us.
Going to be real interesting how it plays out. All right, Doubles. We will regroup next Monday after the first weekend of NFL games. It's going to be real interesting. We'll chat with you in 7 days from now.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, pal.
Rider legend, Darian Durant, here on the Sports Cage. Getting to it. We'll take a quick break. Barney Shinkrick, Derek Bidwell, Coulson, and Allen. It is the Sports Cage. We are streaming at sportscage.com.